Hello everyone, I'm going to read you a story called Ruskin Born Earthquake. It's about the Berman family who faced a huge earthquake that hits the city of Shillong. Whenever there was an emergency, grandfather happened to be in his bath. He was in a bath when an elephant trampled through grandma's prized tomatoes and her amazing sweet peas. And he was also in a bath when a python had been curled on Aunt Ruby's dressing table. During the 20 minutes which he stayed in his bath, by the time he came back, the elephant had gone away and the python had been taken away. How strange. The Berman family lived in a tiny hut in Shillong. It was made of bricks and was quite strong. It had a few cracks. Grandfather didn't have any slaves except for an old cook called Mumtaz. Mumtaz had 4 sons. And Mukesh, a boy in the Berman family, used to play with them. Rakesh had more jobs. He was older than Mukesh and used to go to school. Dolly, that young girl, used to play dolls with grandma or go feeding the ducks. She was quite fascinated by them. Here is another adventure, starting with amazing chaos. Grandmother was trimming the hedges of her leaves. When she looked up, how odd! The cats are not purring, the dogs are prancing about, and the chickens are frozen from their song. The rooster isn't crowing either. That was when a pandemonium happened. The dogs barked the whole place down, the cats jumped everywhere, and the roosters cock-a-doodled loudly as they can, and the ground began to shudder and shake. But Grandma thought it was her knees. Well, she often felt tremors. But no, this was the starting of an earthquake. She ran inside the house to find Dolly. Dolly, Dolly, she called. The clock struck all hours, going mad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In the kitchen, Mumtaz was trying to catch all sorts of cookery as they jumped and fell on the ground to be shattered. An old antique vase bought by grandfather, which was 300 years old, bounced off his desk and shattered on the floor. And then Mumtaz and his 2 sons and Mukesh had been playing marbles. Then Mukesh struck them. All the marbles hurtled away. How strange. Mukesh couldn't hit that hard. And then, as Rakesh cycled to school humming, suddenly his bicycle began to swerve. How could it be him? He had learned bicycle very well in his 6th and 7th year. But now he realized that the ground was shaking. After the tremor of the earthquake, which he thought it was, the bullocks of a cart he had almost hit didn't move at all. It's probably a small earthquake or a start of a big earthquake, said the car driver reasonably. And then, once the tremors were gone, grandfather was still splashing. La 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 la. Oh, how much? Oh my goodness, the water's all gone. Sure enough, the water had gone away. Grandfather was frightened. He surely hadn't done so much splashing. And the mug was nowhere to be found either. And so when he tried to get out of the tub, grumbling that he had wasted those mints on his bath, it sprung up and ran after him. Ah, a ghost is playing tricks, said grandfather and began to run away from the bathroom as fast as he could. So the Berman family sat down to eat. Rakesh explained that he was going to a cricket match. Mukesh wanted to come too, but he was tempted by the Bengali sweet shops and decided to go to to them with the grandfather instead. And Dolly decided that she would feed the hens and put up the washing. Different plans, but one conclusion: earthquake. Crack. Yes, that's right. Half of the town came tumbling down. This is how the incident started. Rakesh was cycling to the ground. He had almost reached there, and the cricket match has recently started when, oh my goodness! The road rose up at him and toppled over his bicycle. He fell off, but then realized that lying on the ground was more difficult than driving a cycle. What madness! The cricket players had toppled down and the cricket match had to be cancelled. Meanwhile, the tremors had formed the biggest earthquake they had ever seen in 30 years. Mukesh and grandfather at the sweet shop realized this a few minutes after Rakesh did. Crack! The shop began to shake and the sweet man lost himself in his own goods as he screamed for help. The vegetable woman's vegetables began to hurtle down the road and cracks appeared there. Houses began to fall down. Crash! Everyone ran screaming. There was huge water leaking everywhere. They escaped the sweet shop and ran. Meanwhile, Rakesh quickly scrambled up a banyan tree, but his bicycle had been lost. Luckily, the banyan tree's aerial roots were too strong for the earthquake, so he was saved. But he could only go down when the earthquake was finished and he had lost his bicycle. Meanwhile, Dolly and Grandma had just got out of the house just in time. It came crashing down. My doll's house! She screamed. She had nearly added the highlight of her year, a cup won by Rakesh for high jumping, to her new set, and now it was ruined. Never mind the dollhouse. But then she recollected a phrase from an English writing. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house over. Of course, the tale of the three piggies. The wolf blew down both the houses but couldn't blow down the brick house. But here, in the earthquake in this case, the brick house came crashing down, taking with it Rakesh's dog. So they began to spend the place at Mumtaz's. Luckily, it hadn't fallen down. Bricks and plaster fell down easily, while just plain straw and grass stood strong, flapping against the wind, but strong. So grandfather sent himself on to find Rakesh. Rakesh, you must have been wondering what happened to him. After the earthquake was over, he began to help people and grandfather found him. Rakesh explained what had happened as they went home. Then they feasted on Mumtaz's sardines. Then Dolly said, what will happen to our houses? Where will we live? We can't live in Mumtaz's house forever. Indeed, they can't they? But Rakesh was always quite smart. What's our daddy for? He works in a tea estate. He can send us the money. Yes, let's build it again, said Mukesh, who had rarely decided to stick with someone. Build it again, repeated Dolly. So that's what they did. Grandfather met his carpenter Azad, whose wife and children were lying in the military hospital, and he was sleeping there too. Grandfather lightened the mood by telling that Azad would have a lot of work for many years. And then a neighbor explained that he was moving to Cuttack, and there he got a shock when grandfather told him that there was going to be a cyclone in Cuttack. He left running, thinking that perhaps, like the Burmans had thought before, better to rent or buy a house in Darjeeling. So, the house was built again. But oh, don't forget the tea mint tub, of course. The tub was taken out of the ruins. Grandfather hammered it back into place. Then he relaxed back in the tub. After putting a few mints in it too, he let out a shrill note. La 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 la. And the birds in the grove took alarm and flew away quickly. I hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you.